Much like most people in the world, my wife and I spend the majority of our time at work, or asleep preparing for work. About a year ago, we came to the realization that we needed a vacation. After a couple of days of searching, we came up with the idea of taking a 2-week cruise. It was the perfect compromise. My wife, Shauna, doesn't like flying. She absolutely refuses to get on a plane. I, on the other hand, had always wanted to see what the open ocean was like, so a cruise was perfect. It was supposed to be 15 days. We were going from Texas to Australia. Seeing as there were so few people booking the trip, we wouldn't be on one of those giant luxury liners, but the ship was nice all the same. There were only 48 of us on board when we set sail. Now, before I go any further, I need you all to know my wife and I are not wealthy people. We set money aside for an entire year just to take this trip. We wanted it to be the honeymoon we'd never had. It took a lot of going without once and driving down to the last drop of gas to get here. But we did it. We're going to make the most of every single second of this. The first few days were amazing. We ate, we danced, we drank way too much, and it was perfect. On the 5th night, the rain came. At first, it didn't seem like much of a problem. The crew assured everyone it would pass, and the night went on as planned. When we woke up the next morning, it was still raining. Overnight, it had gone from a light drizzle to a full downpour. As the day went on, the weather got worse. Waves crashed against the side of the ship, causing it to sway from side to side. Most of us tried to keep partying, but as things got worse, people started getting nervous. Dark clouds covered the sky, and thunder rumbled in the distance as the day grew darker. By nightfall, a lot of passengers were held up in their rooms, praying this would be over soon. It wasn't. My wife and I were in the dining hall getting food for the night when the ship went dark. Shauna screamed out, "Leo, where are you?" She was at the dessert bar loading a box to go while I was bagging up the rest of the food we'd already packed. I stopped what I was doing and called out to her, "Stay where you are, I'm coming to you." I fumbled around, walking through the darkened dining hall. People were panicking. I bumped into at least 2 or 3 and tripped on a turned-over chair just crossing the room. When I finally got to Shauna, she was arguing with a woman I'd never seen before. "Look, lady, I know it's dark in here, but if you put your hands on me one more time..." I interrupted the conversation. "Is everything okay here?" Shauna looked at me and relaxed a little. "Yeah, everything's fine," she said, still slightly agitated. "Can we just get out of here? I want to go back to the room." I could hear it in her voice. She was scared. Honestly, so was I. This whole thing was freaking me right out. I dug in my pocket, pulled out my cell phone, and turned it on to flashlight mode. We went back, grabbed the food I was getting ready, and made our way back to the room. As soon as the door closed, Shauna started panicking. "What the hell is going on with this ship? Why are the lights out? Oh, please, God, don't let us be stuck out here. I don't think I could take it. I'm freaking out, babe. This is really fucked up. I want to go home." I chuckled a little. Hearing her say what I was thinking put me at ease for some reason. After a while, we both started to calm down, and I opened a bottle of whiskey I'd smuggled on board in my luggage. We sat in the dark drinking and talking until we got drunk enough to go to sleep and ignore the storm. I woke up before Shauna the next morning, and it was still raining. Looking out of the window, you could barely tell the sun was up. I got out of bed and opened the door to the balcony to let some cool air in. The room was stuffy and hot with the lights out. As soon as the door stood open, a cool breeze rushed in. Oh, it felt great. I took a deep breath and stepped out, stretching. As I did, I could hear people talking. The way the ship's set up, all the balconies are next to each other, so if you look to your left or right, you can see your neighbors if they're outside. To my right was an older-looking woman talking to another couple. When they noticed I was standing there, the older lady turned to me with a concerned look on her face. "Oh, morning. I hope we weren't disturbing you. I'm Gina. That's Mike and Stephanie. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Have you heard anything?" I told her we hadn't, and Gina let out a disappointed sigh. then looked at the others, shaking her head no, and then brought her attention back to me. "We're going to go talk to the captain. You and your wife are welcome to come with us if you want." It sounded like the right idea. I mean, if anybody was going to have answers, it'd be the captain. I nodded my head and went to wake up Shauna. Well, even in the daytime, those hallways were pitch black, so we all used our cell phones as flashlights and headed for the main deck. As it turns out, Gina and the others weren't the only people with that idea. We were passing the dining hall when we came across a crowd yelling questions at a bewildered-looking Captain Edwards and 2 of his staff members. He held up his hands, trying to quiet the crowd, as he cleared his throat and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I know you all have a lot of questions, but to be frank with you all, I don't have a lot of answers. I can tell you we're working our hardest to get the power restored. Well, as most of you may have already noticed, we're drifting, and with no power, we will continue to drift. Search and rescue has been deployed, but we're a few days out, so it's going to take some time for them to find us. Be calm. Be patient. This'll all be over soon. A few more questions got thrown out, but the captain and his staff were already heading for the door. We hung around for a while, bouncing from group to group, seeing if anyone had any information we might have missed, but no one knew anything. Another day passed, and the rain finally stopped. But when it did, so did everything else. The water was dead still. Not a wave in sight for miles. It almost looked like you could walk across it. Now, I don't know a lot about the ocean, but I'm pretty sure that's not normal. There was no breeze, and it was getting unbelievably hot. By midday, a faint, earthy smell permeated the ship. It wasn't a bad smell, it was just strange. No one could figure out where it was coming from. That night, Shauna and I were out walking around the ship when we started seeing these odd patches of thin green film on different areas of the deck. The closer we got to them, the heavier that strange earthy odor got. We dismissed it and kept walking, but that thin green film was nearly everywhere. At the time we thought it was something from the storm and it was harmless. No one else seemed bothered by it, so we ignored it and went on with our night. Shauna was having trouble sleeping. She tossed and turned until she got agitated and got out of bed. Leo, on the other hand, could sleep through a train wreck and was snoring away. She turned and moved to the balcony door, looking out at the moon, reflecting off the still water. It looked like glass. That strange earthy smell was heavy in the air now. As she looked around, she started seeing tiny grey-capped mushrooms growing all along the edge of the balcony and all over the ground in front of her feet. Shauna slowly closed the balcony door, then went to wake up Leo. "Babe, wake up. Something's happening." She nudged him a few times before he finally opened his eyes and let out a groggy, "What is it? What's wrong?" Leo wiped the sleep from his eyes to see Shauna pointing towards the balcony. "There's mushrooms growing everywhere," she whispered. I rubbed my eyes and looked at her for a second. "Why are you whispering?" She paused and said in a normal tone, "I don't know." Well, we laughed about that for a while. Then I got up to see what she was talking about. Well, she was right. There were little grey mushrooms growing everywhere. I turned to her, chuckling to myself, and said, "Well, I only know 3 things about mushrooms. They either feed you, fuck you up, or get you fucked up, and well, I might have heard that in a movie, so don't quote me." Neither of us slept the rest of the night, and by morning those little grey mushrooms had tripled in size. They were swollen up like they were about to pop. Shauna went to take a shower, and I decided to slide open the patio door and get a closer look. As I stared down at the strange-looking fungus near my feet, I heard Gina's balcony door slide open, and she stepped out directly onto who knows how many of those things. Gina was immediately engulfed in a yellowish cloud of spores. I instantly held my breath and closed the patio door. "Holy shit," I uttered to myself, breathing out. I stepped to my left to get a clear view of Gina. I could literally see her inhaling sections of the spore cloud as she grasped at her own throat, fighting to get oxygen to her lungs. She retched and spewed bright green bile from her mouth before collapsing to the ground, sending another cloud of spores wafting into the air. I'm not sure when my wife came back into the room, but she had seen what had just happened. Is she dead? She stumbled over her words, tearing up as she asked the question. Well, I didn't know what to say. I had no way of knowing if the woman was living or not, but I wasn't going out there to find out. We got dressed and went to find one of the staff to go check on Gina, but when we got to the lobby, there were bodies everywhere. Patches of those mushrooms were all over the floor. That strange earthy smell had been replaced by the pungent stench of rotting flesh and vomit. The bodies couldn't be more than a few hours old, but their flesh looked grey and was falling off the bone, literally melting into a slurry of blood and skin coating the floor. The only light in the lobby was coming from the windows, so there were lots of dark areas we couldn't really see, but we could hear. Somewhere in one of those dark corners, someone was crying. It was hard to make out at first. The shock of seeing all those poor people made it hard to focus on any one thing. My head was spinning. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I looked over to see Shauna standing there, hands hanging at her sides, staring blankly at the scene in front of us. "Please, help me," a voice begged from somewhere in the dark. We stood there silent, not really knowing what to say, when the voice called out again. "Please don't leave me here. I don't want to die. Please," the voice cried out between sobs. I looked over at Shauna, who was shaking her head no at me, mouthing the words, "Let's get out of here." I agreed, and then yelled out to the voice, "Look, just avoid the mushrooms and you should be fine. We're not coming in there, but that's how you can get out. Good luck." After that, my wife and I took off. We ran until we got to the infirmary. When we got there, the door was locked. Looking through the window, we could clearly see at least 2 crew members who ignored us until we went away. Kept going until we got to the forward observation deck, looking out over the front of the ship. What we saw there was crippling. Every square inch of the outer hull was covered in those mushrooms. Couldn't believe my eyes. Shauna broke down crying. Captain Edwards killed himself this morning. It's been 1 week since all this started, and there's only 6 of us left on board. We all started getting sick about 2 days ago. I think it's safe to say no help is coming. We're all going to die here, but that's not the worst part. The worst part is the waves started moving a few hours ago. We're drifting towards land. This recording was found in the wreckage of a small cruise ship somewhere on the Australian coast, September 5th, 2019. Hey there. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop by and listen to this story today. It really means a lot to me. I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos, so it's nice to know that there's someone out there listening. Do me a little favor, would you? Click that like button, leave a comment, and if you really feel like it, why not subscribe too? Okay, happy tales everyone. See you soon.